Okay, so we're recording now. All right, so assuming you have that, go ahead and go to the Epic Games Launcher, sign in and all that good stuff, and then you'll probably be brought to the store page here, which is, I don't know why it's taking forever to load the store page. There we go. So it looks something like this, I'm assuming. And what you'll do is you'll click on Unreal. And then when you do, you'll have these tabs up here at the top. The one that you want to click on is Library. All right, and then from there, you'll click, you should already have 427 installed. And you'll click Launch. You probably won't have any of these projects like I have here, or any of these Vault items. Once you launch it, it'll take a minute or two to load. And then you'll be brought to this Create Project Launcher. And you probably don't have this at the top or any of these recent projects at the top because you don't have any recent projects, right? But right here at the bottom, we have 4 different ways we can make a new project. We can make a games project, we can make a films project, architecture, or automotive. And honestly, these 3 I have not used that much, so I don't know a whole lot about the differences between these 3 versus game. And I pretty much only have used game. So in our place, what we're going to do is we're going to click on game, and then we're going to hit next. And then it's going to bring us to this template options, right? And so Unreal is really cool about saying, hey, you know, I assume you want to make this type of game. And so I'm going to give you some of the base templates to sort of get this game, you know, going. So like as an example, your first person template here, it comes with all the things you need for, like, it has a gun, it has a character, the character can move around with a joystick, controller, or keyboard and mouse. It has a HUD for shooting, and you can add, you know, health and all that. And you know, you could do a side scroller. It has all the information for setting up a side scroller and so on and so forth, right?
Real quick, what's the difference between the side scroller and the 2D side scroller?
So this one's more like a 3D type side scroller, and this one is more of a 2D.
Okay, I think I get it. Carry on.
Yep. Hold on, Matt just joined us. Let me get him into the system here. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do for our project, this first project we're going to create, we're just going to do first person shooter, okay? Because we're just going to mess around with the editor, get familiar with the UI, and then once we get more familiar with it, then we can start doing other templates. All right, so first person template, we're going to hit next. You're going to want to make sure that it's set to blueprint right here. You can see we can do C++ or blueprint. Obviously, we want to do blueprint. And now we don't need no starter content, ray tracing. Yeah, we can just leave all that default. The location, it by default, it selects your documents folder, which is fine. And then you can name the project whatever you want to name it. It doesn't matter. It could be my first awesome project, whatever. Doesn't matter. Oh, it's too long. Project. And then once you've named it, you've selected a location where you want to have it, which I think it's fine. It's in Unreal Projects in your Documents folder. Click Create Project. And when you click this Create Project button, it's going to take a minute or two to actually create the project for us. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And hopefully you guys are following along. I know that it's a slight delay in the video, but hopefully you're following along and you've clicked Create Project as well. Okay, so that's create project. And now we can talk about what we see here, the whole UI. And so while yours is loading, I'm going to bring up our Unreal documentation because it's already got things numbered for us. And this is the same link that is in the assignment. So I'm going to bring up the assignment here. So if you go to the assignment, we can click on level editor. And when we do, it takes us to the same picture right here, okay? So at the top, we have our toolbar. It's the same type of toolbar that you would see in, you know, an Office program, right? Like Word or Excel, right? We got a file, we have our edit, Windows, help, et cetera, That's just at the top. You can also click on this little guy right here, this little hat, and it'll help you with like tutorials. It's not very intuitive in my opinion, but you know, it's there for you if you want it. And of course, the name of your project and where it's located can be when you hover over it right here in the top right. Let's see, so that's one. Number two is our like toolbar ribbon. So this allows us to access some of the quick options. So as an example, we can save what we're doing currently. We have our source control if we have that set up, which we won't in this class, but typically when you work in a you know, production environment, you will have source control. There are different modes, so landscape, brush editing, mesh painting. We'll talk about some of those a little bit later. Our content browser, so that's this guy right here, which we'll talk about in just a second. A marketplace, different settings. You may not have mega scans, but if you have the Quixel plugin, you can get mega scans, our level blueprints and different blueprints that we can create, cinematics like level sequences. If you have VR like I do, like you can see my little VR headset is turned on right now. Obviously, you can go into VR mode. Our different build options for like just building lighting, building everything. Our different play options and how we want to play, and our different launch options for building a project. So that's all in our toolbar right here at the top. Okay, so the next one is, well, let's see, we'll go 3. So this is our actors, our place actors. This is the guy right here on our left. So this is just it's just a list of all the different types of actors that you would use in your game. And all you have to do if you want to move an actor, and by the way, an actor is basically something, an entity that could be put into your world. So all of these are actors, right? And actors is like the highest level thing. And I know this may not make much sense to you guys, but it's the highest level thing, and then everything derives from that. So it'll make more sense later, but basically think of it like, I don't know, there's this one great entity, and then he or she or whatever this entity made animals, and they made humans, and they made fish and birds, right? And so those are different actors. And then inside those those like humans are male and female, you know, blonde hair, black hair, whatever, right? Blue eyes, green eyes, orange eyes, whatever. Same thing for birds, right? There's all different types of birds. So it's the same idea here. So we have all these actors, and then inside there we have like this basic, we have lights, cinematics, and so on. And inside that we have these different types of lights, different types of basic stuff, and different types of geometry, and so on and so forth. And to place these items, all you have to do is just, you know, left click and drag, and you can just place it into your world, just like that. And you can place lights. And we're just placing it into the viewport right here, this big viewport. Okay, so let's place actors. And it actually, when we switch modes, so if I switch to brush editing mode, you'll see that the Place Actors tab changes to this brush editing tab. And if I had a brush that I could edit, it would give me some options here to edit that brush. So I'll give you an example. I'll drop a brush here and then I will select it. And now I should be able to modify it. Oh yeah. So here it is right here. This guy right here, this little toolbar allows us to make changes. So we can, actually if I grab an edge, there we go. So I can split it. And so you can see now have a new edge around that. Okay, so what's next? Let's see. Okay, so we'll talk about the viewport. So that's this guy right here in the center. I'm gonna go back to place actors mode. I'm gonna uncheck this brush editing mode, go back to select. All right, so viewport, that's this guy here in the center. And we have some buttons up here on the top left, and we have some buttons up here on the top right. Okay, so our first one here is our viewport options. So we can turn on like showing our FPS. We can set up immersion mode, which makes a big screen, right? We can do all sorts of different things. We can change field of view and so on with our viewport options. Here's our different orthographic views, right? Perspective, top, bottom, left, et cetera, et cetera. Our different view modes, lit, unlit, wireframe, et cetera. And then the different things that we want to show, whether we want to show static meshes or not, right? The show is normally used for, normally we use this in the developer mode and we just checking to see different things to see like for performance, is it running well? What's going on? Why is it not running well, etc. Okay, so over here on the right-hand side is our different options for manipulating meshes, or sorry, manipulating actors. So obviously we have our translate, our rotation, and our scale. This is the same options in Maya and 3ds Max, right? So WASD, so you can see here, I'm sorry, Q, W, and E and R. Yeah, W, E, and R will allow us to change it. And you can see if I hover over it, it gives me W, E, and R. Then right next to that is our gizmo transform to change it from local and world. Obviously it doesn't work in scale, but it does work in transform. So you can see here how our gizmo is changing from local shape, local space to world space, and how the object moves depending on that. Then right next to it is our movement. So this is determines how, if it snaps and how big the snaps are. And this one determines surface snapping. So I don't normally have that turned on, but I do have I do have snapping turned on, and I normally have it set to like 1 or 5. And then right next to that is our rotation. So right now it rotates it at 10. So you can see we're doing 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. And of course, we can change the values there. So maybe I want it to be 60 at a time. And if we turn off snapping completely, then it's done as a float value. All right, so we'll turn that back on. And then right next to that is our scale. So we can scale, obviously the bigger the fraction here, the more it's going to scale uniformly instead of like a snap. So we'll do snaps. So you can see it's going to be very big. You can see my shadow growing, right? Zoom out. There we go. And then next to that is our camera speed. And so if you have a very big world, you can turn the camera speed up. And of course, I haven't told you guys how to move or anything like that, but and then of course, if you want, you can turn the camera speed back down. Maybe 3 is too slow for me. There we go. And then right next to that is this maximize or restore this viewport. Yeah, so I'm going to show you how to do all that. Not today, but tomorrow, Tuesday. That's a good question. So Dan asked, how do you move the camera? Well, I haven't shown you that yet. All right, so right next to that is this maximize or restore viewport. So see, when I click on this, it changes our viewport to more like a Maya setting, right? So you can see now I have like a top-down view, right view, back view of this whole scene. And then when I'm done, I can click on one of these. I don't know what this is called, but this little button right here, I can click on this one, and then I have the right view, you know, and I can click on this one and I have the top view and so on and so forth. So we'll click on it back to the perspective mode. Okay, so viewport done. So let's move on. Let's see, what do we have next? We have our content browser. So that's this guy right here at the bottom, content browser. Actually, you probably don't have, yours probably does not have the message log. So yours probably looks like this. So content browser is just where our content is. Think of it as like our bank of all the information of what we want to add to our game. And we can add more to this bank as we you know, make more content. That includes blueprints, that includes you know, animations, characters, trees, rocks, whatever. The stuff that's in this content browser may not necessarily be in our game, right? But it is there available for us to pull from our sort of our bank of content and add to our game. So that's what this is for. It's where all our information is stored for us to use into our game. What else? We have World Outliner. Okay, so the World Outliner, that's this guy right here at the top right. World Outliner, this one. This is what's actually in the game right now. So you can see right now I actually have Editor Cube 11 selected and a World Outliner. So, and when we want to select objects in the scene, we can either select them in the scene like I'm doing by left clicking, or we can select them in the World Outliner by left clicking. I use this World Outliner all the time, and you'll often hear me say things like, go to the World Outliner, and in the search bar of the World Outliner, type in whatever, right? And it'll help you find objects that you're looking for. So maybe we're looking for a specific light. So you can see here, I typed in light in the World Outliner search bar, and we have 3 different point lights so that I can select them. All right, just below the World Outliner, we have this details panel. So details panel is the details of that specific object that you have selected. So right now I have a light selected, and because I have that light selected, these are all the details related to this light and all the things that I can adjust. I can make it brighter, I can change the color. You can see it happening in the scene here, right? I can make the radius bigger. I can do all sorts of different things, right? This is adjusting the specific details of this particular light. Now, if I select this box, you'll see that my details has changed. I no longer have the ability to make intensity and all that stuff, right? Because this is a static object. It has nothing to do with lighting. But I can change stuff for this guy too, right? We can change it from a physics actor to no collision. We can maybe it doesn't simulate physics. Maybe it's not a cube. Maybe it's this guy. I don't know. I don't know what I just selected. How about one of these guys? Oh man, I made this big guy here. How about one of those? I don't know. We can just change it to one. How about a cone? There we go. Perfect. It's a cone. We can change the material. It's a cross material. I don't even know what it's selecting here. Let's see. Let's do, here we go. Blue, perfect. Right, so we can change all the different stuff, all the different details for that particular object that we have selected. That's what the details panel is for. Okay, so I think that's everything. You can see that I also have world settings and levels. We're not going to get into that too much. And then also I have a message log. We might get into that when we get into blueprints. Any questions though on the interface for our level editor?
I do. That's is there like this UE4 has like short hotkeys, right?
Yes, it does. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on Tuesday. Oh no, what has happened? I've lost my monitor. Okay, there it goes. Yeah, we'll talk about movement, how to move around in the world, how to place objects, some of the shortcut keys, not all of them. And then when we get into blueprints, we're also going to talk about that as well. So actually, that's what I want to segue into next is the blueprint editor. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our content browser. We're going to go into blueprints. And let's see, we'll go into this one right here, first person character. What's the difference between geometry and other objects you place? That's a good question. So Matt asked, what's the difference between like these basic cubes right here versus the geometry cube, right? This geometry box. And the difference is the cube is a static mesh that cannot be modified. And this geometry, it is in Unreal 3, there was what was called BSP. And I don't remember what BSP stands for off the top of my head, but basically allowed you to modify the shapes of meshes so that you could like sort of white box your world. And in Unreal 5, they actually have a whole geometry modifier that's very similar to Maya, that's way more robust than this modifier that I'm going to show you here. But basically, we go to modes, we go to brush editing. You can see now that this geometry shape is turned blue, right? You can see the basic shape, nothing, but the geometry shape turned blue. And it's because it allows me to modify it. So I can change, let me grab this transform. You can see now that the shape is much bigger. I can do an extrusion. So we'll extrude out, something like that. You can see now I have that edge, right? So that I extruded. Actually, I'll grab that edge and we'll do a split. So that's going to make a cut right there. And of course, I can grab vertices and adjust the shape how I see fit.
Is it mainly because these are easier to tile with?
It's just more convenient to modify an Unreal sometimes. I personally, when I was doing art, I did not like it. What I would do when I was doing art is I would extract the character model, so I have the exact height, so I know how big to make doors and windows and stuff like that. And I would just use Maya to make whatever I was going to make. But some people, especially old school people, prefer the BSP system. And actually the Unreal 5 one is actually pretty robust. I'm just not completely 100% familiar with it. And unfortunately, we're not doing Unreal 5 this term. All right, so I'm gonna go back to select mode here. And you can see here's my nice little shape that I created. Whatever, it's fine. Okay, so in our content browser, I want you to go to, if you right here, content, I think it's first person. Oh, nope, I take that back. It's going to be first person BP, blueprints, and then first person character. And when you double click it, it'll open up this blueprint editor. And hopefully you can see that there are some similarities, right? So up here at the top, we have a very similar file, edit, view, just like our level editor, right? File, edit, window, assets. We've got a couple other options here, but whatever. Over here on the right, we can see what our parent class is for this particular blueprint. And in this case, it's character. And if I was to click on that, it's going to open up Visual Studio, which we don't want to open. Go away. No. Okay, we're just going to assume that goes away. But oh my gosh, come on, Unreal. All right, but if we had a child of this blueprint, then it would say first person character and so on and so forth. Let's see if I can close this now. Okay, good. All right. Right here we have our toolbar. It's similar to the toolbar in our level editor. Over here on the left, we have something different. This is our components tab. This is all the components tied to an actor. So if we're using the same analogy as before about humans, right? Our components will be heart, lung, arms, fingers, legs, toes, eyeballs, et cetera, right? And in this case, for our first person character, we have a capsule component. This is sort of like for, you know, it's the component to determine when a player takes damage, right? So if something touches it, we have an arrow component to let us know the direction. We have a gun, we have a camera, right? We also have motion controllers for VR, and we have a VR gun. And then there's this last thing right here for character movement. And as you see, as I'm clicking on the different components, the details panel, which is just the same as our level editor details panel, is giving me allowing me to change all the options for that particular component that I have selected. You can see how it changes, right? All right, so that's our details panel. Right below our components is our My Blueprints panel. And in there we have our different graphs. So we have an event graph, we might have functions. In this case, we just have a construction script. We might have some macros, and we'll definitely have variables for each of our different blueprints. All right. And then we have our viewport, just like a level editor. Then we have another tab here called our construction script. So our construction script is like something that we build before the game launches. And then we have our event graph. And so this is basically all the things that happen during the game and while the game is running. Let's see, what did I miss? Did I miss anything? I don't think I missed anything here. Okay, so what are your questions about the blueprint editor?
I'm assuming we will create some of these. I noticed that you have one for like, it says spawn projectile. Is that mainly whenever you shoot it, does kind of like that foosball thing?
Yes, yeah. So you can see here that we have our input action fire. So that's when a user presses the left mouse. And then we have an execution pin to this execution noodle, this white one, that sends an animation to, you know, fire the gun, right? To give the animation of the gun looking like it's shooting. And then it creates a projectile, right? The little white ball. And it also plays an annoying sound. So if we actually hit play, you can see that, actually, let me get, you can see here the gun animates, right? Every time I left click, a projectile spawns, that yellow ball, and then the audio, right?
So I'm assuming each one of those things, like the projectile, the sound, and the gun, can all be imported separately. So when you alternate weapons, you would plug into something like this.
So you can see here, you see how it's animating. You might not be able to see it because of the screen. And your question about like, yes, can I switch guns and so on and so forth? Yeah, right. So basically, it would be the same idea where we'd have something that says like, you know, check what gun it is, whatever gun it is, play that particular montage for making it look like it fires, and then spawn that particular projectile, whether it's a bullet, a rocket, shotgun shells, or whatever, right? Maybe it's an axe that you throw, who knows? Maybe it's like you stabbing a blood doll, you know, okay, I'm getting too dark. And then whatever sound you want that's associated with that particular weapon. As a matter of fact, let's We got time actually, so let's transition to. Well, actually, any more questions about the blueprints?
So like, are we able to like edit the event graph while we're playing?
Will you be
Yeah.
able to edit the blueprints while you're playing the game? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
No. This blueprint stuff is basically code, and it's
Oh.
it's a visual code. So the exact same thing that you see here, montage play, you can write this exact same thing in C++.
Oh, okay.
So that's a good question. All right, so let's transition to talking about how to move around in the scene, which is good. So we're sort of moving on to, I don't want to talk about the UMG too much. So this is the assignment. We did talk about it. You guys are good. You're gonna struggle. It's okay. So let's talk about moving around. So here's some shortcut keys. You were asking about the shortcut keys. Here they are for moving around in the level editor itself, not necessarily the blueprint one. And then this one is for blueprints. So there's a lot. So you can look over that on your own time, but I'll show you quickly how to move around in the viewport. So there's a couple ways to move around. The first one is to hold down right mouse. So while you're holding down right mouse, you can use WASD to move around just like in a regular PC shooter game. So that's WASD plus right mouse. And I just typed that into the chat for you guys. So that's one way to move around. Of course, left click will allow you to select objects in the scene, just like I was talking about earlier. Or you can also do it in the world outliner, selecting different objects. When you have an object selected, you can press F to focus on that particular object. This is very handy for whenever whenever you're like super lost in the world, you're like, man, I have no idea where the heck I'm at, what is going on, right? Like you're lucky you see that, but you're like, man, I have no idea where I am. So you can like click on an object in the world outliner, press F, and you'll immediately focus on it. So that's F for focus. Once you have an object focused, let me change this back, my camera speed back. Once you have an object focus, you can hold down Alt. And while you hold down Alt, you can left click and left click and hold, and you can drag the mouse around. So I'm holding down Alt and holding down left click. And when I do, I'm circling that particular object that I have focused. You have to focus the object first, okay? Or have the object selected, sorry. No, I was wrong. You do have to focus the object first. What is going on? What have I done? There you go. And of course, W, E, and R are the different transforms, the transform, rotation, and scale, right? What else? Mouse wheel for zooming in and out. Let's see, if you hold down both left and right mouse and drag up and down, it'll do this sort of elevation for you. And if you hold down left and right mouse and go side to side, it does a side strafe. That's Q, E, and R for the different transforms. And then left and right mouse for elevation and yaw. And then what was the other one? Oh yeah, Alt plus left mouse for rotating around object.
Sorry, isn't it W, not Q?
Oh, you're right, it is W. is W-E-R. I'm used to actually in Maya having Q as my select tool. Just change the select tool.
Totally understandable.
Okay, so what else do we have? Mouse wheel zoom. Oh, spacebar will allow you to change the transform mode, right? So you can see how if I press spacebar, it changes the transform mode. That's kind of nifty. We have different snapping. Actually, I don't want to show you that snapping stuff. F for focus. Oh yeah, Alt 2, Alt 3, Alt 4. So Alt 2, 3, and 4 for the different view modes. That can be handy sometimes if you need to see wireframe, unlit, and lit. So that's Alt plus 2, 3, or 4 for the different view modes. It's kind of pretty much all you need to get you know, be dangerous and make mistakes. So let's you know, just start adding stuff to the scene, whatever you want. You know, here, add some cubes, we'll scale them up. Maybe we'll change the scale settings here. And maybe we'll add some more lights. Who knows? Maybe we'll mess with some of the lighting here and go to this Skysphere blueprint thing, I think. Actually, let's go to this guy, the light source. We'll rotate him so we can make it nighttime. And maybe we'll add some stairs. Maybe I want to rotate those stairs because I want to get up on top of that white platform I just created. Perfect. Hit play. Awesome. Oh, okay, cool. I can get up there. Great. And then I'm gonna slide down my little strange geometry shape I created earlier. And now we have this platformer. I fail. Okay. You get the idea. Just in your own scene, just add stuff to it. Just mess around with it, moving around, adding different things, moving them around, rotating them, scaling them. You guys are doing great, by the way. Lots of good questions. I appreciate that. All right. What other questions do you have?
So like I'm pretty sure we talked about it yesterday, but I forgot it. So is it like, would you prefer to like save every time you finish your work, or like just leave it to the autosave?
No, you definitely don't want to leave it to the autosave. So if you have something that you want to save, you should save it. And as a matter of fact, you can do that right now by going to File, Save All, and it will save everything that's been edited.
Oh, okay. And once we save that file, when that file is created, it'll just go to the directory of that folder that you pick, right?
Your project is already saved in wherever you saved it. So mine is in my documents folder. So I show you here in just a second.
Do be aware, don't scale your stairs up to where you can't walk up them.
Sorry, 1 second. Unreal projects. So yeah, here you can see, right, all my different projects. And what do we call this one? My first awesome project. Where is it at? My first.
I think
Third
it's
one
way up
down.
at the top. My first awesome prod.
Oh yeah, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So you can see there it is. And all the stuff that's associated with it. So every time I save, it's saving it right here. So for stairs, is it better to use a scaling or a details tab for the exact measurements for each stair? Well, in reality, like 99% of games, as a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever used any game that has used the geometry stairs. The geometry stairs we would use maybe for like white boxing or whatever. But typically what'll end up happening is you'll have a sort of a ramp shape that's used as collision. So something like this that the player never sees, right? And then you'll have the actual stairs stacked on top of that the player sees. And also that the character, especially if it's a third person character or it's a multiplayer game, that the character, his feet will animate on. And so the character actually for collision is walking on the ramp and not on the stairs. But visually, it looks like he's walking on the stairs. And the reason we do this is because we don't want to deal with like, oh, I need the exact measurements for, you know, not only the vertical, right, this vertical edge, but also this I guess width or length, you know, like we don't need to mess with all that. Like it's too much math. It's easier just to make a ramp and have the character walk on the ramp. It's a good question.
Is that just to avoid like collision problems and just kind of smooth things out?
Yes, exactly. 100% avoid collision problems. Yep. And the same thing can be said for crazy shapes and objects. So like if we have like this, I haven't shown you guys how to make holes yet, but we'll make a hole in this guy here. So change this to subtractive. So if we have, let's say this is some crazy shape for a cave or something, right? And let's say you know, the player can move into the shape. Actually, here we'll do something like that, right? Like some weird shape like this. We might actually allow the collision to be something completely different. So what I mean by that is, oh, come on, I thought I created two of these. Okay, there we go. So we might have one where it's like this, and this is sort of like, it's kind of hard to explain, but this is like the visual of what the player can move through, but then this outer one is actually the collision of where the player can move through. So we don't have to worry about the player getting stuck on a rock or stuck on, you know, rotating around or something like that. This is very common especially in multiplayer maps, because you want the player to be able to move smoothly without any problems. All right, so I got 714. You guys are moving pretty rapidly. So let's keep going. You guys okay with that? I guess not. No one said yes.
Sounds good to me.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
let's
sir.
go back to the first person character blueprint. So we can look at our blueprint editor. We can talk about how to move around in there. So this is pretty easy. What you're going to do to move around in your, click on the event graph tab. And when you do, you can hold down the right mouse and that will move you around in the event graph. And if you use your mouse wheel, it'll zoom in and out for you. And then of course, left click will allow you to select a particular node. And if you left click and drag from one of the pins, so here I have this white pin, I'm going to left click and drag out, it'll create a noodle of the same color. And that's my scientific term. I don't know what the exact term is for these little wires or whatever. I'm sure they're called wires, but I like to call them noodles.
It'll sounds fine.
Yeah, so we got blue ones coming out from this guy. We have green ones, yellow ones, and so on, right? And of course, only the color, it can only match colors, right? I can't connect a yellow to a white, and I can't connect a white to a blue, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty easy when it comes to making those connections. That's how you move around in the blueprint editor. So, with all that said, actually give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Okay, so let's close this. Let's create our own blueprint. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on this guy right here, and we're going to go to our content browser. I'm going to click on this guy right here. It's called Show or Hide Source Panel. And when I do, it brings up this like menu to see all of our folders. And the folder I'm going to click on is the content folder. And you can see that I have it selected. So I left clicked, and now I have that content folder selected. With that content folder selected, I'm going to right click. And when I do, it brings up this context menu. And this context menu, I'm going to say new folder. And you can see it creates a new folder for me. And we're just going to call this blueprints. With the blueprints folder selected, you can see here on the right side, there's nothing, right? So I'm going to right click on this right side. And when I do, it brings up this context menu. And the one I want to click on is this guy right here, blueprint class. So blueprint class brings up this launcher to say, hey, which parent class we're going to use. 99% of the time, you're going to use an actor because an actor is just an entity in the world. And then these other objects here or entities are actually actors as well, but they're just, they have different functionality. So we have pawn, which is like for moving around a character. A character is, I guess, a type of pawn. We have player controller for setting up all the controls to move the pawn around. Actor components is scene components for adding to the actor itself. But in our case, we're just going to use actor. Like 99% of the time, we're going to use actor. So in this case, we're going to do actor. And as soon as I click on actor, you can see that I have this new blueprint inside my blueprints folder called new blueprint. And we're going to rename this. We're going to rename it BP for blueprint underscore. We're going to say triggerable light. All right, if I'm going too fast, you guys gotta let me know, okay? I don't know because I can't see your screen. So I'm gonna keep going. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna double click this triggerable light. And when I do, it opens up a blueprint editor for this particular blueprint. And right now we're in the viewport mode. And on the left, in our components, the only thing we have is a default scene route. That's what this big circle is right now in our viewport. So first thing we're going to do, so what we're going to do is we're going to make a light that the player walks onto this platform and the light turns on. And when the player leaves the platform, the light turns off. All right. So in our components panel over here on the left, we're going to click on add components. And the first thing we want to type in is scene. So in my search bar, I typed in scene right here on add component. And the one I want is this guy right here, utility scene, this one right here. So I'm going to click on that, and it adds a scene component to the list of components in our blueprint. And I'm going to rename this scene component to root. And if you can't rename it, or it doesn't allow you to, all you have to do is right click and say rename, and it allows you to rename it. Or the shortcut key is F2, F2 for renaming. All right, once it's renamed, I'm going to left click and drag it on top of this default scene root. And you can see when I left click and drag it, it gives me this context menu that says, hey, drop it here to make it the new root. The default root will be deleted. And I'm going to say yes to that. So I'm going to say yes by let going of left mouse. As soon as I do, you can see that sphere is gone in our viewport, and we are now left with just the root.
Okay, can you repeat that one time?
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to undo it. So what I'm doing, I have my root scene component that I created. I'm going to left click and drag it on top of this default scene root. And while I'm holding down the left mouse button, you can see I get that I get this option. It says drop here to make the root the new root. And I'm just going to drop it on top of there. I'm just replacing the default scene root with our new scene root to get rid of the sphere. We don't want the sphere anymore. Okay, so if we're going to have a platform that the player walks onto to turn on this light and turn it off, we need to create a platform. So we're going to go to our add components again. In the search box, we're going to type in cube. And all we want right here is this basic shapes cube, this one right here. We'll click on that. You'll see that it adds a cube to our viewport, which is what we want. And then I'm going to shape this cube to be more in line with the ground. So you can see here, I have this grid. Might not be very visible in this stream. But I have this grid, and you can see that the cube is like sticking way out of the ground. So I'm going to change it to scale. I'm going to scale the cube down so that it's more like a platform on the ground. So if any of you guys have ever played Skyrim or, I don't know, Fallout maybe, you know that you got to save and save often. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit compile right here in our toolbar. And then we're going to hit save. And that just saves our particular blueprint. All right, let's keep going. So I'm going to go to add component again. And now I need a light. So I'm going to type in light in our search bar. And the one I want is point light. So I'm going to click on that. And right now, your point light may look like mine. And what I mean by that is the point light is a child of cube. So actually, let me take my snipping tool so I can show you what I mean by that. So if you look at this guy right here, it's a child of cube. This is the wrong way. This is not how we want it. That's not right. What we want to do is we're going to drag this point light on top of a root. And as soon as I do, it's going to say make it a new root or attach. And the one we want is attach. Now you can see that point light is a child of root and no longer a child of cube. So this right here is wrong. See how it's a child of cube? And this way is the correct way, where point light is a child of root. We want them both the cube and the point light to be a child of root. All right, we'll compile and save again. So we have a problem, and the problem is that our light is inside our platform. So with the light selected, I'm going to go to the transform, and I'm just going to drag the light up so it's above the platform. So we'll talk about triggers and in more detail when we talk about puzzles, especially when we get into Legend of Zelda. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to add a trigger volume. So we're going to go to our add components. We're going to type in trigger. Oh, wait a second. What is it called? Box collision, I think. Yeah, sorry. Box collision. So we want to add that. You can see right here, I typed in BOXCO. I didn't fill in the whole thing, and it found it for me, box collision. And I've made the same mistake again where I've made box a child of point light. So I'm just going to drag box onto root and attach it so that it is a child of root.
Do
So
we
you
have
can
to do that? I'm sorry.
the-
Do we have to like do it each time we pull up the component?
No, the problem is that I had point light selected. So you see I have point light selected and I do box collision, and then it makes it a child of point light. If I have root selected and I do it, it does it correctly.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so with box selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this box up a little bit. So I'm going to select scale, and I'm going to scale it up uniformly. And it doesn't want to scale for me. Why not? Do that again. Select, scale. Oh, that's the wrong thing. There we go. Something like that. That's fine. Probably have to adjust it here in a minute. All right, so we'll compile and save. So now we have the basic components we need to make this light turn off and on. Let's actually do one more thing while we're messing with our components. Let's click on our light. And with our light selected, we're going to go to the details panel. We're going to go to intensity. We're just going to crank that sucker up all the way to 10 billion or whatever it is, 10,000. I can't read. I need my glasses. And then we'll change the light color to whatever you want. I don't know. I like purple. It's kind of cool, like a pink purple.
But the cube and the box are different because the box is that a negative shape or just a bounding box?
This box right here is
Mhm.
is a volume that when the player walks into it will set off an event, and in this case, that vent will be to turn the light on and off.
Did I not see where you pulled it from? Where did you pull the volume box from?
So we go to add component,
Mm-hmm.
and we type in box
Mm-hmm.
collision,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just add it. There it is.
Oh,
right there.
okay. That's it. Just box. Okay.
Yeah, and I just scaled it bigger. All right, where I'm going to compile and save again. All right. So now that we have the components, we can start doing some code. So don't get too scared. We're take it step by step, and I'm going to try and go slow. I have a habit of not going slow. So if I'm going too fast, you'll let me know. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the event graph. And in the event graph, this event graph allows us to create nodes or events that fire off. So think of it like events. Think of them as like blood pumping through your body, right? It starts at the heart. The blood goes, to, I don't know, your legs or whatever, right? They help the legs move around. That's an event. And then they go back to the lungs to grab some, oxygen. I don't know the whole blood system, but you get the idea, right? So that's another event. And then they go back to the heart, and that's another event, and so on and so forth. So it's the same thing. That's what these nodes are, right? They allow us to do different events. So what we're going to do is actually these 3 nodes, we don't need them. So I'm going to left click and drag to select all 3 of them. And I'm going to hit the delete key. Then I'm going to select the box in our components list. I'm going to select the box in our components list. I'm going to go to the details panel. I'm going to scroll down all the way to the bottom. And you can see here, I have a list of events in our events category. We have on hit, we have on begin overlap, on end overlap, wake, sleep, cursors, blah, 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 blah. The ones we want are these 2 right here. On component begin overlap. That one right there, on component begin overlap. And it creates this node. We'll come back to that in just a second. I'm going to click on box again, details panel, all the way to the events category at the bottom. And the other one I want is on end overlap, end overlap.
This is the on and off for when you move away from it.
That's correct. So when the whatever actor, in this case is going to be the pawn. So when the pawn begins to overlap this box, right? So when the pawn enters, the player enters this box, then do whatever events we want to do in here. And when the player leaves this box, that's this guy right here, then do whatever. So in this case, we're going to say we need to get the player. And then, oops. Then we need to turn the light on. And so I'm adding comments by just hitting the C key. C key to add comments. And you don't want to have a node selected. I keep having nodes selected in this case. So we have comments. We need to get the player. We need to turn the light on, and then right here we just need to turn the light off. Turn the light off. Right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to get rid of this node, and we'll come back to that in a second. What we're going to do is we're going to come out of this other actor, this guy right here. Oh no. Oh no, Unreal, why? Why do you hate me? Well, okay, I need to restart Unreal. I have a small bug. No, don't save. Let's restart Unreal. Epic Games Launcher. Project. We have talked about a lot of stuff, so we'll go over it some more. as we go through the class. All right, so here we are on begin overlap. Right here, other actor. We're going to drag out a blue noodle from this blue pin. And as soon as I let go of left mouse, I get this context sensitive menu where it allows me to search for different things. And what I'm looking for is the equal sign. So you can see right here, when I type in the equal sign, I get equals an object. I'm going to say yes. And it brings up this node. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, I want to see what object actually overlaps our box. So I am going to drag out from here. And I think I could do get player pawn. Yes. So I'm going to drag out from here and let go of left mouse. And I get the same context menu. I'm going to type in get player pawn. And there it is right there. And so all we're doing is we're saying, does the begin overlap happen to be the player? That's all we're asking. So we have this red pin right here, and this is a Boolean. It's just a true or false. So we're going to drag out from that red pin, and we're going to type in the word branch. And then I'm going to select branch, and it brings up this node, branch node. You can see now I have this same type of pin right here, right? We have this like white arrow to this white arrow. We're going to connect those together like that. And so that's how it pulses, right? So we start with this node. This node pulses to this branch, which checks to see is it the player pawn. And if it's true, then we're going to do something. Obviously, in this case, we're going to turn the light on. But if it's false, it's not the player pawn, then we're not going to do anything. All right, I'm going to make this one bigger so we can add the light. All right, so let's turn the light on if it is a player. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our point light. So you can see right here, I'm going to left click and drag. And as soon as I do, it changes my mouse or whatever to this sort of like point light. I'm going to let go of left mouse. It adds it to our event graph reference. Where did you get the node connecting to get the player pawn? I dragged out from this guy right here. And I just typed in get player pawn, like so. I can also, for player pawn, I can actually just type anywhere in the world. So I can right click. And when I do, I get this context menu. I do get player pawn. And there it is. And then I can connect our blue pin to this blue pin. All right. So point light. We're going to drag out from this this blue pin, create a blue noodle. It's the context menu just like before. And what we're going to do is we're going to modify the visibility. So I just typed in VIS and it gives me all these different things. And the one I'm looking for is set visibility, this guy right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say yes we want it to be visible. So this new visibility, we're going to check it. We're going to see when a player enters the platform, yes, turn the light on. That's what this check is. And we're going to connect this true statement to the set visibility. So it'll pulse this node for us. Will we be touching on texture mapping through blueprints? I know we touched on it in intro to game design. No, nope, no texture mapping, sorry. This is game creation and design, games and all that, but yeah, it's a little bit, it's more art related, I think. It's a good question. All right, so that's set. Let's go to our end overlap. I'm gonna get rid of this node here. We're gonna make this bigger. Drag that down. I'm gonna grab our point light again. So I'm gonna left click and drag a point light reference into my blueprint event graph. I'm gonna drag out from this blue pin to create a blue noodle. In the search box, I'm gonna type in visibility again, so VIS. And the same thing, I want set visibility. And in this case, I do not want the new visibility checked. I want that unchecked. And then I'm just going to connect our execution pin to the execution pin of the set visibility node. I'll compile and save. And now we have, will the class recordings be posted? I'd like to go through this process a couple times to help myself get it down. Yes, the class recordings will be posted on YouTube. They do take me about a day or two to actually get them uploaded and all that.
I think maybe they're asking, where is the link found for your YouTube?
I'll post it in the announcements once I get it going.
All right, cool.
Yeah, no problem.
So does the light start invisible?
That's a good question, and the answer is no. So we need to fix that. Good job, Hayden. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the point light. We're going to go to the details panel. And in the details panel, we're going to scroll down to the rendering category. And you can see right here that it is visible, right? And we don't want that to be the case. We only want it to show up when we actually walk on the platform. So we're going to uncheck that. And when I go to the viewport, you can see now that the light is off, right? So compile and save. So now we have our first blueprint. Hopefully this blueprint works. Cross our fingers, cross our T's, dot our I's, all that good stuff. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back to our level editor. So I'm gonna move this out of the way. And I don't know where my player is. Oh, here he is right here. See this guy right here? Oh, actually it's this one, my bad. Get rid of this guy, go away. So this one right here with all the cameras, that's our player. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this platform right in front of the player. You don't want the box to touch the player. We want the player to walk into it. So just outside of there, we're gonna hit play. There's the platform. I'm gonna walk into it. Light turns on, I walk out, light turns off. Pretty cool. So let me show the code one more time, just in case anyone missed it.
So this is supposed to be like a pressure plate kind of light switch thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's the basics of all basically every type of event in the world. So Matt asks, so that's just an invisible box collision and not actually visible. That's correct. So this box collision that we see here, this yellow, is invisible to the player. So all events in all games work with this. Yes, it's like a sensor, exactly. All events in all games work with this sort of box collision, right? Think about you're playing a single player game, like Legend of Zelda as an example. You walk into a room and suddenly all the doors close and like 3 bats spawn in and you have to kill the bats. Well, that's because when you walked into the room, you stepped onto a box collision. That box collision activated an event that spawned 3 bats. And then of course, when you kill those 3 bats, you start another event, right? Which typically will give you a key or open the doors or whatever, right? But that's the basis of all events. You get close enough to a treasure chest, right? That's signifying that like, hey, you are within the treasure chest's collision volume, and now you can press a use key, and when you press that use key, it goes, oh, do you have the correct key? Do you have the big key? Do you have the the skeleton key or whatever? Yes, you do. Great. Then we're going to activate the event that says open the chest. That's all gameplay elements. I've basically pulled the veil for all games for you. Sorry.
So what I was gonna get at is, wouldn't we want the collision box for the pressure plate to be smaller so that the player has to actually step on it instead of triggering it as soon as they get close?
You're absolutely right. And so we can go back into our blueprint and we can adjust the shape of our box here. And actually, we need it to be slightly tall enough to actually have the player collide with it.
I also noticed it's got collision for like if you shoot the gun at it, it bounces off the invisible wall there.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Uh-oh.
So we can fix that too. So what we'll do is with box selected, we're going to go to collision right here. You can see, oh, it has overlap all dynamic. Okay, we're going to change this overlap all dynamic. We'll say overlap only pawn. Overlap only pawn. Compile and save, and that should fix that problem. No, it doesn't. Okay, fine. What we'll do is we'll just say custom collision. We'll ignore everything except for the pawn.
Would no collision cause it to stop triggering when the player touches it?
No, as long as so what we're saying it, not no collision, I said custom, sorry, custom. So
Right,
custom.
I was asking about no collision because that seems like it would work just fine.
Yeah, no collision should make it so the light doesn't work. Yeah, see, it's not even.
Okay.
It has to collide with
Yeah.
the it has to collide with this capsule. So we'll
I
change
thought
it
that might be an
custom.
issue, but I wanted to confirm.
Query only, doesn't matter. World dynamic doesn't matter. Ignore everything and overlap only the pawn. And I think that'll fix it. Yeah, there we go. So now the balls are going through it, but the light still turns on and off. Cool. We'll save all.
Quick question. After you've already made the light and everything, can you edit where the light is sitting so that when you run through this trigger, it can like turn on a light somewhere else?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you just like replicate the light and move it around, or do you have to edit it in the blueprint editor?
Yes and yes. We can, there are ways where we can go, give me a specific, I'm looking for a specific light. Sort of as an example, I could do something like this. I could go point light, ref, and we can change this to point light. And I'm going to make this an exposed variable. And I'm going to do the same thing for turning it on and turning it off. And then I can go anywhere in the world. So let's say this light over here, it's complaining. We will turn that light off. And then I will click on my blueprint. And you can see right here, I have point light reference and it says none. And you can see I can select any of them. I don't know what number this is. That's the first one. Okay, so we'll select that guy. And I'll hit play. And hopefully it turns on. Yeah. See how it's turning on over there?
All right, so you can link multiple ones. So you walk into a room, the whole room turns on.
Yes, I can set up, I can make this an array if I wanted to. So we'll change it from a single to an array. And now it's complaining here. So I need to do for each loop. And this is getting way, way advanced, way out of the realm of your first blueprint. So for whoever's lost, don't worry. This is just answering questions. And it's good that you guys are curious already. So this is going to turn on all the point lights that I have in my array. So you can see right now, I will add point light 3 and point light 4. We'll go in 3 and 4 here and we'll turn those off. I'll hit play. Oh, there's a problem. Of course, there's a problem. Walk, 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 walk. What is the issue? Point light preference. Oh, go away. All right, hit play again. All right, and then turn them on. You can see there, those lights right there. That one turns on, and this one, I guess, right here turns on. And if I really wanted to, I could get rid of this guy completely because we don't need it, right? So it's like I walk onto this trigger and those lights turn on over there. Maybe it's reverse, right? Maybe we're making a horror game. So instead of it turning the lights on when I walk onto the platform, the lights turn off. So it's like I walk into a room, and if we wanted to, we could scale this up. Let me see if I can grab this. We'll scale this, like, you know, you walk into a room and suddenly all the lights turn off. You're like, oh crap, what do I do now? Right? Oh, I forgot the lights are already off. Turn it back on, make them super bright. Perfect, super bright. And then they turn off, right? Oh no. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff we can do. And we will definitely get involved when we start working on the puzzle game. So actually, I want to talk about this again on Tuesday, and maybe we'll actually make it a use button. So like you'll go onto the platform and then it'll say, hey, press a button. And then when you press the button, then the light will turn on. So it'll be just like a light switch in real life instead of just walking onto a center plate, so to speak. All right, any questions, guys?
I do.
I'm assuming this can also be used for like sound and animation as well.
Any event. We can change materials. Think about like lawnmower simulator, right? So as as my collision of the blade of the lawnmower touches the ground, that I change the material from a cut grass or from a not cut grass to a cut grass. I can change sounds, like you said, absolutely. Think about Rock Band, right? When the collision box enters the area where the player is supposed to press that particular color, we're checking to see, did they press that button? And if they did, then we give them credit. Every game uses trigger volumes, all of them, every single one. When we play, what is it, Overcooked, right? You grab lettuce and burgers and whatever, that's the same, it's trigger volumes. When an enemy touches you, like you're playing Aliens, Colonial Marines, and an alien touches you, that's the alien's collision box touching the player's collision box. And then we fire off an event where we take health away. When bullets touch you, right, a projectile touches you, Well, same thing. That's an event that fires off. That's the bullet's trigger volume has touched the player's collision box. And so therefore it would take health away, a fire off event to take health away. You grab the coins in Super Mario Brothers, right? That's an event. You touch the collision of the coins, and then we give you whatever points to your score or to health or whatever it is, right? 100 coins gives you a 1-up. So all great questions, by the way. Anything else? We got 4 minutes.
Oh, I got a question. So like, are we able to duplicate of that? Are we able to duplicate Unreal Engine 4?
What do you mean duplicate it?
Like duplicate one thing to another, like the
So the reason we made this platform as a blueprint is because I can absolutely place it all over the place, right? And so if I want this particular one to only turn on light 1, and maybe this platform will turn on light 3 and light 4, and maybe this platform turns on light 6, you know, and so on and so forth.
Okay. I was thinking like, you know, like the Mario 3D, like you just duplicate that object and it'll just...
Oh yeah, you can do that too. I forgot about that shortcut key. So that's a good question. So what we'll do is you need to be in the translate mode. And if you hold down Alt and you left click and drag from one of the arrows, it'll allow you to duplicate it.
Oh, okay.
Good question. I think if you hold down Alt when you move, yes, Alex is right.
I've had the issue where I was trying to look at other people's blueprints, but when I try to load them, they don't fully load. Is it because I'm not loading them correctly?
It could be any number of problems. It could be that they built in a different version than you. It could be that their blueprints are jacked up and you know, that's just the nature of the beast. It could be that you're missing particular references. So maybe you only like, as an example, maybe this particular blueprint, we're using Unreal Engine stuff, right? But maybe we have a blueprint that has a specific mesh from, you know, like maybe it's a fire hydrant or something like that. And the blueprint allows us to shoot smoke. Well, do we have the smoke particle effect? Do we have the fire hydrant? No. So that blueprint is going to look messed up to us. It's going to have missing references.
Yeah, that's usually what I run into is like there's always spots that are missing stuff or like key stuff doesn't like display correctly or interact correctly. So I guess that's right.
So yeah, it could be anything else too. It would have to be something like, let's look at it and see what's going on, and then maybe we could figure out what's wrong with it, and maybe it can't be fixed.
Yeah, I was just like looking at a lot of stuff that's on the free for a month off Epic Games, and so they have a lot of stuff on there, like even like pathing, but I'm assuming I have to I have to plug it in correct to make it work correctly.
Yeah, we'll talk about plugins like way late into the class, and adding content to our project. All right, I'm glad everyone's super excited, but I'm going to leave you to your own devices for the weekend. And when we come back on Tuesday, we will go over this again, but we'll add more to it. So we'll add in, you know, the player walks into the collision volume, then we prompt the player by saying, hey, you can press a key, like let's say the F key or something like that. And when you press that key, the light turns on. And then when they press the key again, the light turns off. But they can't, if they press the key and they're not in the volume, nothing happens. So it'll just be like you're in the real world, you're very close to a light switch. You flip the light switch up and the light turns on. That's basically what we're doing. Cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cool.
I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.
Have a good day, sir. Thanks
Thank
for
you
your time.
so much, sir.
All right, thanks. See you
No problem.
around.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for explaining all this, because my brain is like, what? I'm not smart for this stuff, man.
You'll be fine.